So thank you, Shabbir, for coming on today's episode of our new podcast from DPDP Consultants. And I'm really excited to talk to you in this episode. And I would just like to introduce myself. I'm Osama Nayyar. I'm a senior functional consultant at DPDP Consultants. And today we have with us Dr. Shabbir Badra from Apraava Energy. And if you could just introduce yourself in a couple of words, I think that would be a great place to start the episode.
Sure, Sama. Thanks for having me here. It's great.
My
It's
pleasure.
the new talk of the town. Actually, everybody's talking of DPDP. I know
Yeah.
people were talking since quite some time, but suddenly when the government has finally announced it, it's new talk of the town. Yeah, about myself, I'm Shabbir Badra. I work as the Vice President IT and Cybersecurity at Apraava Energy. A little bit of the background of Apraava Energy. You can see a windmill on my backside. So we are a pure renewable energy generation
Yeah.
company. So we are a pure IPP, which is called as an individual power producer. So our model of business is pure B2G, business to government. So, whatever the
Okay.
power we produce, we sell it to the discoms. We are almost into all verticals of energy, maybe, generation and then transmission. So we are even into transmission where we carry, electricity between long distances between two states and all that stuff. We are also into an AMI business, which is a smart metering business.
Okay.
But basically, we are just an AMISP, which is an advanced metering infrastructure service provider. So we serve the discoms on that one. So a little bit of background about Apraava Energy. Yeah.
But that's great. Like, we don't like. I remember since school time we were taught about renewable energy as a most sustainable source of energy. But there aren't many companies like yours who would come out and be able to say that we have a huge role to play in this journey of the world adapting to renewable energy, right? So that's great to like hear your I've even went to the website. I've learned about Apraava myself, and I think that you guys are on a great path and you've done a lot of great things so far as well. And the windmill was like a great touch to the whole thing.
Thank
I
you.
think that's a great thing to have. But
Thank you.
moving forward, I think so that our viewers understand who you are as a person and what's your experience been like in the past. So I think you've been part of the IT since the early 2000s, right? And
Yeah.
very closely working in the IT yourself, and for most of your life, I think, and now, and I think, how has that been like? What has the transition been like? Because I think it was extremely unorganized in early on, and now it's getting organized, more organized day by day.
Yeah, I think, IT is evolved and it is evolving day by day, but suddenly the people have started realizing of late, I started my journey way back just around 2000 or before 2000. And I don't have shame in admitting that I didn't know how to use a mouse. It was very difficult. I didn't know how to use a mouse and I entered into this industry, of course, yes. But it was interesting time. But those were the days where the basic automation was like a wow factor. We had that big servers, morning 8 to 10 or morning 8 to evening 5, the servers are getting shut down, man people, big EDP centers, and getting transition from EDP to IT department, and then from IT department to digital excellence department to digital department. So that's a journey which will get evolved and all these things. Yeah, but technology is evolving. It is evolved. In fact, if you look the early days, uh, people when the mobile phones came also, the way
Yeah,
it got transition, people were hardly using it. People did
yeah,
not realize, how important is that. So I think, the very important thing is look at the way the technology has helped uh, everyone, everyone,
yeah,
for that matter, when it comes to personal or organization, everyone, like say, for example, Osama, if I wanted to know about you before coming onto this call, I would have really gone to the LinkedIn and looked into you this thing.
yeah,
Okay. Whether I'm breaching your personal data privacy, LinkedIn is data DPDP compliant, GDPR compliant, blah, blah. I don't want to get into all this intricacies. All right. It is their baby. But yeah,
yeah,
look at the way things have evolved, and the power is in the handle now.
yeah,
Look at the power of data which people have started utilizing it now, which people were not realizing how important and critical is the data. People were not talking much about cybersecurity. They were talking about the antivirus. It is there in your machine. It is there. Yeah, you're all sorted. So yeah, it is evolved. It is evolving. And now with the latest things happening, everybody talking of AI and different versions of AI, agentic AI and whatnot, prefix and then an AI. Things are rapidly evolving. And when I
yeah,
was doing my research on AI, which earned me a doctorate degree, trust me, I could find so many things in that one.
yeah,
And everything which evolves or revolves around is data.
yeah,
Whether you talk of AI, whether you talk of technology, you talk of automation, if there is no data, there is no point in having that one.
I couldn't agree more with you. Like, and I think the evolution of AI has been so drastic in the recent years itself that it's just I'm just flabbergasted at this point that how quickly it's growing, right? And I think it's finally starting to hit Indian markets now because all AI companies are running after Indian users. Like they're giving away their premium services for free for a couple of years, if not less. What is your take on that? Like, should we have something of our own made in India, which is more trustworthy, or is it fine because a lot of CIOs and CISOs are having an opinion on it?
I hear a very different views. Of course, we have already have made in India, and I take a lot of pride, especially when it comes to make in India. And I really get excited. I think Perplexity is already there, which is a pure Indian. It gives a tough competition. It in fact offered to buy Google Chrome and all that stuff. I don't know if you have read in the news. But
Yeah,
coming to one very important point, which I see two ways. Some CIOs and CXOs and CISOs saying that, okay, the Indians are not understanding, and maybe it's a market where people have to, the Indian market, the data is getting into those things, the data is getting exposed. But look at the amount of data India holds now, and these people are benchmarking India, and India will become a benchmark for the world when it comes to AI and all these things. So
yeah,
I see this at a good positive mood rather than worrying more. Of course, it will give a lot of power in people. It will bring a lot of employment. People will a lot of new opportunities to think over. So
yeah.
I personally see it as a very positive way and a good strategic move for any business also, because they'll get a lot of data for training and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And like I'm sure that you might have been following the news because something that you were talking about your journey made me think about the news where Cloudflare went down yesterday, and 20% of the internet came to a halt for a couple of hours.
That's
And
going to happen. That's going to
yeah,
happen. And so that's what we have to all live with it. No matter how best defenses you build in, one small gap, and that's where, there are a lot of things I don't want to get into the details of this call, because there's something, which all the organizations have to prepare for any absence. So, the one small gap or one small leakage or the minor leak
yeah,
can land into trouble. And this is what exactly happens. Look at the CrowdStrike issue, which happened, a year and a half back, when the
yeah,
entire aviation industry was came to a halt globally. There
yeah,
was a small error from an individual. So these are very basic, and this is going to happen. So we have to
yeah,
live with it. And in fact,
yeah.
that gives a break, a human break from the technology.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. But coming back to the point, like topic of data that you brought up with the AI narrative. So, like, I understand the amount of data that India holds, and I think it's a unique selling point also to the world that we have such diversified data in terms of people, in terms of manpower, in terms of skill sets, in terms of geography, everything. Like it's insane. But I think the like evolution of DPDPA as a law, digital personal data protection law, has came into picture because there was a lot of personal data that was leaking like left, right, and center, and we were not safeguarding it. And they were like, let alone safeguarding it, we did not have even measures to like even protect it from getting leaked, right? So and in since the last 2 years, I've been I've been noticing this since the law was passed or enacted. It a lot of companies started talking about data then, like not in terms of taking it, but in terms of preserving it, like safely preserving it. So I've seen that shift a little bit. How has that been in your experience?
I think, I've been telling that data is, of course, the new oil. If people are saying that, I've been saying this over years,
Yeah,
the power of data. And I think in my entire conversation so far, I've been harping more on data for any
yeah,
technology and all this thing. But yeah, I think DPDP was very important. I think, we were, as a country, we're slightly late in the game, but, we are not that late too also, because as a country, we are evolving, we are growing,
yeah,
and that would have disrupted the way we were structured, because we had a lot of unstructured data compared to, a lot of other developed countries. We are a
yeah,
developing country. I would say we are already almost developed when it comes to all of it. So,
yeah,
getting that unstructured into structure definitely takes some time, and there should be some breather. While I'll appreciate the government initiative, they were very aggressive in getting this thing. I know recently, around 6 months back, they announced that it was going to happen. The Honorable, Minister of Information Technology announced it, and then there was a step back, but finally they have announced it. And And this
Yeah.
time the announcement has come very beautifully, with some stages said by this time, and there've been enough time for everyone to get prepared and all this
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, the data protection becomes important because at the end of the day, whatever things are happening, it is purely because of the thirst for the data.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this act was very important, very, very critical. We keep getting calls from banks and all these things, where our PI has a leaked.
Yeah.
My wife ends up getting calls from a lot of media companies,
Yeah.
and she tells me, where did my number came? I said, probably somewhere I had shared your numbers as an alternate number, and
Yeah.
somebody the data has got leaked. And she gets bogged up at times. Then she's like, this is not Shabbir Badra. Please hang up the call.
Yeah, but it's insane. It's insane, and I I think, but in the grand scheme of things, Apraava has been one of the early adopters of becoming compliant with your guidance. So, what I want to understand is that, but given my conversations with majority of the companies still today, they I think still they understand the importance of like data security and data like protection and of personal data sensitivity, but they're still like a little lenient about the implementation of this act. So like how do you see that changing? Like how is the awareness going to impact, like how is that going to grow, or people will just like there will be new firms like CAs who will just be like helping them and getting aware of this like law.
I think you asked two questions to me. One of the things is like what do you see that why were you so one of the early adopters or something like
Yeah.
that? That's what is coming out. Let me answer that. At Apraava, maybe we are one of the organization who are very, very particular when it comes to any law of the land. And for me, I
Okay.
had some experience in GDPR from my previous job, so I knew how DPDP is going to evolve, how it is evolving. I was closely observing it, and I said this is the time rather than running at the fag end. Probably as a cultural thing within our country, with due respect to all the people, we don't run unless there is something fired in the back. And that's what
Yeah.
precisely the government has done now, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't want to do that fire to make me run, rather than I wanted to be sure that, when this act comes, if there are still any gaps, let us do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, more than a regulation, it was bringing in the discipline of data, whether
Yeah.
it is any type of data. And it helped me in quite a few things. Forget about, protecting the personal data. This entire thing helped me in, structuring my overall data strategy for the organization.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like how do you see it, like people becoming more aware of this act? Because I still feel that there's a huge gap in terms of knowledge, and like that also affects the intent of people. What would your advice be to them, given that you've experienced with GDPR and now DPDPA?
It is yes and no. I think people have aware. There was enough of the conversations, the webinars, the conferences happening for the legal team, for the IT team, for the CISOs, for the CIOs, for the CDOs. That was already there in thing. I think the board
Okay.
also was talking for a couple of things. So and no is some people are saying, okay, आएगा तब देखा जाएगा. So,
Yeah.
that's how the mindset was. But yeah, that awareness is there. But I think the consultants like you guys, DPDP consultants and other consultants will play a very critical role in this one, who carries that experience of
Yeah.
understanding the intricacies that we. It is all about interpretation. There are a lot of words. I was reading the DPDP Act yesterday. Once again, I was just refreshing my thing. But it is all about interpretation. Data fiduciaries, data processors. There's a lot of lines around 18 to 20 lines around data processors. Sometimes you feel whether the data processor is at the one who is to get compliant, or the data fiduciary. So it's a catch 22 situation. It's a catch.
Yeah.
But over the period of time, I think by this time we go into the implementation phase or the final phase, which is I think November 2027. I'm not sure on that one. Probably that even.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
final date.
May 2027,
May
18 months from now.
2027. November 2026 is something to get start taking the consent and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yes, 26. So by that time, I think people will get matured. There'll be a lot of learning. There'll be a lot of up and down, but I'm sure we'll be there.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you. I think it's companies like us that is moving the needle for like helping the government spread their message across the markets. And I think I'm really grateful to be a part of this journey actually, because such great learnings, right? How you get to see a market shift from like 180 degrees, if not more.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, coming back to the topic of like your experience with working with us, DPDP consultants, how was that like? And like, how was that? Like, how did you like your experience with, or like while getting DPDP compliant?
It was sweet and sour both, because I think, since I came from the GDPR
Yeah,
backdrop, and I think Priyank had that experience too also. But, within my team, they were getting into too many details of which is required also.
yeah,
But, the overall experience has been great. I think, the entire set of team was really good. The best thing which I would say is what helped me personally is, simplifying that in a very common man's language, the legal term, because sometimes a comma or a full stop makes a difference when it comes
yeah,
to the entire policy document. So that interpreting that and mapping with our business, looking at our systems, looking at our processes, looking at our
yeah,
practices. How do we manage that right from when somebody enters? So there was an observation right at our security center also from your
yeah,
team, and they said, Shabir, this is the observation which we had. It is still some sort of manual thing, but this needs to be controlled. So the picture was not only looking at the system, but keeping a larger overall organization. But a great experience. In fact, I was in fact, in my CIO circle, if somebody asked, I was very happy to recommend you guys for
that's
getting
so sweet.
your the assessment done.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
really
how
sweet.
how far it has been turned into lead, but I had given a couple of folks. When people were
Yeah,
asking, I'd given a couple of folks the contact that we got it done from there. We were quite happy. You can look into that one and all that stuff.
yeah,
The best thing came, which was, once we got this thing and I was talking something with your team, and they said, oh, we have a tool also. I think you guys have a tool
yeah.
also. Now that tool also was to I think was just initially developed with your own experience. So the preparedness of having a tool also was great much before the law became an act, actually.
Yeah, so we have a whole product suite, like ranging from consent management platform to rights management platform to vendor management and risk management. And we have an entire product suite there, including an awareness program. But having said that, I like thank you so much for the kind words. Like I'm truly grateful that you had a
No, I,
great.
I, I would. So it's the fact because I've experienced it.
Yeah,
It's experience which speaks, and all my interaction has been very good, very positive, very patience because I was learning, my team was learning, and the entire team at that end was very patient and all that stuff.
yeah. But that's great to hear. One thing that I would like to ask you more on this subject is that a lot of people like in the market would think that they would be able to implement DPDPA on their own instead of getting an external consultant, a team of consultants or products or anything, because the law does not make it mandatory for you to have a consent manager. You may have one, or you may manage it on your own. So what is your like view on that front end? Like, is it possible for big companies or even SMBs to manage their data on their own, or do they need to get some kind of help?
I think, I would advise the organization to get some help from people like you all. There are a lot of organizations in the market, but people can get some help from that because it's important. It's not about only the data. It's about, dealing the entire cross-functionally. So
Yeah,
it's not about the data which HR holds or IT holds, who's the data custodian. It has to keep a larger picture. And this is going to get evolved. And I'm
yeah,
sure, by the time this gets completely implemented, this is getting evolved. But yeah, people have to take in advice. So you cannot be a master of all. You cannot be a master of all. Right.
yeah,
So it's very important and my advice is to take help from, the consultants like you all.
yeah. And it's great to hear because I feel like that is going to like this trend is going to shift when people start understanding, and because the penalties are so severe, like the penalties
Yes.
could go up to 250 crores with, and
Yes.
to which I don't even like, I can't even comprehend if someone gets slapped with that kind of penalty, even in the worst case scenario. Like, that's going to be like disastrous for the business to out of,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
because we see a couple of breaches happening every year. I think just about last year we had boat who got breached, who had a data breach, and some other companies also. The recent past, I forgot the name, but this is the scare that is there now. It's not just the breach that is there; it's the like slap of penalty, which could directly, I think, influence the like prices of the company if it's a listed company.
Absolutely, it is going to be a it's going to be a brand impact completely. The brand images at the reputation.
Exactly, and because I truly feel that people, especially the limited companies, have to be vigilant about the data, because otherwise
Absolutely.
everything is going to hamper their value rate in the market. But having said that, I think that's a great take to have. But like, and like, I would just like to understand: is there any advice that you have for the fellow like CISO or C level like CIOs of the country that you would like to let them know to give them a head start, or especially the startup industry, right? Because they are still in the learning phase of everything every day. So, is there any advice for you, those founders that are managing the data on their own?
So I'll answer this thing. Before I answer that, just you was talking a lot on the penalties and all these things. This entire game is going to strengthen the cyber security also.
Yeah,
People are not only looking at the DPDP, probably a lot of things people will start realizing where are the security gaps. So
yeah,
along with this DPDP, people have to understand what is that they have to do. Forget, one is the data protection, the other is having the entire information protection. So it really goes hand in hand. So
yeah,
that strengthening is going to happen, and I hope that the overall as a country, we will have our infrastructure more secure, sustainable, reliable, and all these things. My advice to my fellow colleagues across the industry is, if you're not started the game, please start it now. We are still not late. The government has given enough timelines. They were pushing, and the government has realized in this not much preparedness of from the lot of corporate angle and lot of government bodies also. So they were given enough time, and they've taken a very stepped approach, which is the right thing. Unlike a lot of other places, first get your gap assessment done, so there is still a time to get the gap assessment done. You're
yeah,
not liable, and then you start getting your consent by this time, and then by this time, so it's almost 18 months journey, which is still still have enough time to get these things done. So
yeah.
yeah, the advice is, please start rolling up the sleeves, get into your data, see how dirty or clean it is, and ensure that it becomes more neat and clean and presentable.
100%. I completely agree. And adding to your point, I think I really appreciate how empathetic the government has been towards the companies of the entire country. Because in the sense that I think even the Data Protection Board of India will be taking a lot of intent into account, right?
Yes.
So was your heart in the right place? Were you trying to secure data, but there was a breach that happened, and that I think would be taken into some sort of consideration as per my interpretation of the law, that how they're explaining it. And I think that empathy is really, really appreciated from my end. And I think the government has done a beautiful job with this.
No, it's a good planning, I would say. It's a very well planned implementation, realizing that this is going to time. Because I remember having a conversation that what will क्या होगा यार अभी अचानक आ जाएगा तो preparedness तो है नहीं वो government देखेगी. But the way they have structured it, I think nobody realized that it is going to come in the phased manner. At least I did not realize. I'm not sure
Yeah,
about others, but at least I did not realize. I felt one fine day they will come. Okay, within 6 months it is going to happen. But the
yeah,
way they've structured it, it is completely aligned with you, Osama, on that one.
yeah. Well, that's great, Shabir. I think I had a great conversation with you. And
Likewise. Thank you so
this
much.
brings us to the end of our episode. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And I had a great
Pleasure
time
is
talking
mine.
to you.
Pleasure is mine. Pleasure is mine.
Is there
Thank you so much
anything
for
that you
having
would
me.
like to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much. I wish good luck to you guys also, because you
Thank
guys
you.
have been in this segment. It's going to keep you guys extremely busy. Keep doing the right work, which you guys have been doing. Rather than a good work, I would say keep doing the right work, because that's very important. More
Yeah.
than good work is the right work is very important when it comes to protection of data. You guys are playing a very critical role for the country in helping the organizations to become more compliant on the DPDP, which is a great thing to have it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, perfect. And I hope that Apraava Energy keeps succeeding and
Thank you so
changes this
much.
landscape of energy in India at least.
We continue to do that, and we will. Thank you so much, Osama. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll